Well, hi. Today is Monday, February 17th, 2025. I'm Todd Studer, and I have a guest in studio. This is the first time I have ever done this. Mr. Dan Duffy. He is a longtime radio personality, longtime local musician. He's the drummer for the 70s band and one of my favorite people. Thanks for coming over, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I feel like that was, again, like an introduction, like I was in in the band Kiss or Led Zeppelin. So, wow.
I can go bigger than that if that's what you're after.
That's quite all right. But I appreciate that, Todd. Thanks for having me over, and it's been a while. So, hello, and how are you?
I'm very good. And the reason that we brought you over is because I don't know of anybody that knows more about music than you do. I know quite a bit, and I was actually telling my girlfriend this just earlier today that I'm like the kid that sits in the corner and just keeps his mouth shut when you start talking when it comes to this stuff, because you know so much more than I do. But with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame being and putting out their nominees, these are not... They haven't decided who's going in yet, but they put the nominees out, and I thought, you know what, let's bring Duff over and talk about that and see just what some of these things jump out at you based on your history. Because before we get into this, you've got a lot of classic rock experience, a lot of rock experience in your radio DJ days. And
I'd like to think so. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So you look at this list, and you have quite a bit of knowledge out of just about everybody that's on here, with the exception of one, which is a band from another country that you and I we pulled some stuff up a little bit ago, and I'm like, wow, they sound cool.
We just looked it up. It was a band called Manya. I believe that's how you pronounce it. So they got some sort of from what I gather, some sort of a Santana vibe going.
Right.
They're a great freaking band. And I've only watched one video, so I've never heard of this band until just like 20 minutes ago. So
yeah, but sound good. And I think I'll probably go back and listen to a little bit more of their stuff too. So, but before we get into that, your history locally in the Omaha Council Bluffs area, you've been on you were on Z for a while. You were on what was CD. It's now, I don't even know what they call it now, but it's
KKCD, whatever the brand is, classicrock1059.com, or it's been a while. I stepped out of that industry like 9 years. It'll be 9 years in July, and it just seems like yesterday.
It flies right by, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
There's something about the radio industry, and it's why, well, let's just be honest, it's why I got sucked back in a couple of years ago. Hey, it gets into your blood, and it's fairly universal. Everybody that I know that has done radio over, if they were in it long enough, it just keeps bringing them back. It's like it never fully leaves, and it doesn't matter, oh yeah, I'll go work for $5 an hour, and it doesn't ever get out of your system. And
it's a part of your life, and once you've done it for a while, again, like you say, it's in your blood. And I've done it for, since I was in my late teens. So, and I'm going to be 61 in a couple of months. So I got some years in there, and that's just part of my DNA anyway. So, and I still have people come up to me, and that I'll chat with about radio stories and whatnot. And I guess my name still has a little clout around here, but I humbly thank them for listening. And I never get tired of people, believe it or not, that'll run into me at a gig or something with the 70s band, or if I'm grocery shopping, believe it or not.
Right.
You're Dan Duffy from the 70s band, or you're Dan Duffy from Z92. I remember you. So I'm pretty grateful in that area. I mean, I'm not going to shun people away for they're curious, and
right.
I don't get tired of it at all, really.
Well, and the thing is now is we can call it a new medium, because I think that what we are doing here, which is strictly online, you can see we've got some nice microphones we're talking into. We've got a nice setup here, and it's only a different delivery method.
Pretty much.
No, we're not playing music. We're not doing that part of it, but the ability to connect with people, I think, has never really left us. And that's what this platform can do. And that's what I'm seeing more and more radio people getting into podcasting. And I'm encouraged by that, because it's taking a little bit of the power out of the hands of corporations and putting it back into the hands of the people who are actually doing the work.
and you're not under the constraints of any programming where you have to get a message out in about 30 seconds or less. And
Right. Well,
you know,
that's true
and
too.
and I speak for many people that are in terrestrial radio today, and they probably struggle with that. And they want to say a little bit more, and I can totally relate to that. And some are really good at getting the message out in, like 60 seconds or less. But like many of us, I'm starting to embrace this platform. It gives me an opportunity, and everyone else who's doing it, just to kind of speak a little bit and a little free form, talk, a little flow, a little mojo, versus being constricted with not what to say or do, but you just gotta the whole radio. The programming philosophies of yesterday do not exist today. They're pretty much out the window. So,
Well, and it doesn't seem to make any difference how good you are.
No.
There's no job security there. And as an example, I know of someone, known him for a number of years. He was the program director of the number one station in the Des Moines market, lost his gig. With that on his resume, the number one station, and lost his gig. So there's no
doesn't matter how good you are. It really comes down to
no, it's not. So by doing this, this is a lot of the same muscles, but it's not all of the same muscles. You kind of have to stretch a little bit. You have to do things a little bit differently than what we were used to, because before, I'm not sure if I've got something to say. Oh, let me hit play on the next song. We had that as available to us, where now it's not that. But I think that this has grown my skills by doing this, and it has made me better sitting in front of this microphone. So I'm very excited about where podcasting is going. I know you're working on a new podcast to get it out. It's not released yet, but you're working on it.
We're getting ready to launch it with a dear friend of mine that I've known since college back in the day. His name is Dave Hornstein. He's a funny guy. He's one of the most interesting guys that I've met in my entire life. And you're going to have to listen to the podcast. It's called Two Omaha Fools. And basically our branding statement, our positioning statement is, hey, we don't know anything, but we talk about everything. We're in our late 50s, early 60s, and we're kind of brought up in that era where we can, really speak our minds. And we're not going to get into politics or anything like that or anything heavy. There's a lot of that going on, and you don't need a couple idiots like us to magnify that issue already. We're just a couple of rock and roll guys that just love to talk rock bands and radio stuff.
So. Well, we don't do that here either. We don't. No. We leave politics alone. And I've said it many times that, if you're looking for negativity, you got plenty of outlets. That's just not what this is.
Yeah. I don't even post anything political on my Facebook page. It's not that I don't want to. I just don't find it appealing or anything like that. This country is pretty much well divided anyway. So
they don't need us adding to the division, right?
Nobody cares.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna jump into some Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees after I tell you a little bit about some of the great folks that are helping us out here on Morning Coffee, including Just Sue Creative. That is Sue Pitts, and she can help you build your business with website design, search engine optimization, content creation, marketing, everything that you need that's going to take your company to the next level. Sue has a passion for small business. She's had this for years. She was worked with the Small Business Development Center for 20 years and is now out helping folks on her own, and she can help you in that digital world. She built my website, leshillsmedia.com. So go there, take a look, see what she can do, and then go to her website, justsuecreative.com, to learn more. Also, one of our newest sponsors is Avela Bank. They've been around since 1870, providing Iowans with high-quality financial products and services to fit their needs, and they even have a branch now in Omaha. So whether you need a loan, you'd like to start a new business account, maybe you need to save some money for a trip, or you're just looking to open a personal checking account, Avela's qualified bankers are here to help you with all of that and more. Visit avela.bank to learn more. And ServiceMaster Restore by Schmader knows it can be hard to get back to normal when you suffered serious property damage due to flooding, fire, or smoke, and you may also be left with all sorts of questions about how to get your home or business back to normal. ServiceMaster Restoration Services will restore your space by offering quality commercial and residential restoration services in Council Bluffs and also in the surrounding areas. Cindy has offices in Omaha as well. They can do everything quickly to get your home or business whole again, and they're available 24/7 all year long. That is Service Master Restore by Schmader. All right, Duff, let's dive in, and we're just going to kind of run down this list. It looks like we've got it in alphabetical order. I'm not even sure, but
I think so.
Right at the top of the list is a band. We run across bands frequently that I'm surprised have not already been in, and this is one of them, Bad Company. How are these guys not already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
That's $1 million question. Another great rock and roll band, from the time that we grew up. So they were signed to Swan Song record labels, which at the time was run by Peter Grant, Led Zeppelin's manager. So they kind of signed them back in like 1973 or 74. Not as big as Led Zeppelin. The Swan Song record label wasn't as big as maybe Peter Grant wanted it to be. That's a good question. Paul Rodgers is one of the greatest lead singers out there. Simon Kirke, I believe Paul Rodgers and Simon Kirke are two of the remaining members that are left in the band. What's his name? Rich Robinson of the Black Crowes. Goes on tour with Bad Company every now and then when he's not committed to doing any dates with his band. Howard Leese, one of the great guitar players from Heart over the years, is also on the bill with Bad Company these days. But to answer your question, I don't know why they're not inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think you have to look at looking at the caliber, maybe the definition of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame itself. I don't know if it should even be called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, it's not technically. I mean, there's a lot of bands that get in that, when you think about what rock and roll, at least in my mind, is, they don't fit that category, but it's just more
not
music.
It should be the Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I have no disrespect for any of the artists who are in the Hall of Fame right now. Some of them maybe should not be in there, but I have a laundry list of bands like that, but we'll stick with 2025. I'd have to say yes for Bad Company throughout the 70s. I'd say from their first album all the way up into Desolation Angels. That was their peak, from about 74 to 79. You had that solid lineup of musicians, and they generated a lot of hits. Again, the Swan Song record label, I think Peter wanted more out of them. He thought that maybe they were the next Led Zeppelin, and that's just asinine to think that, but they were on the same label, and I think they had different goals and different expectations of Bad Company than they did for Led Zeppelin, if that makes any sense.
It does.
So I'd say yes. I'm going to put check Bad Company. We're going to at least try to nominate them.
We're going to see if we can't get those guys through. All right. Well, you mentioned Black Crowes. They're nominated this year, and they hail from an area where I used to live, down in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area.
Yeah, man.
And when they first hit, I was down there.
You were. I did not know that.
And they, I believe the story was that they. Rock station down there, and it no longer exists. It was 96 Rock, and I thought it was one of the greatest stations ever that I had ever heard.
And a friend of mine did morning drives down there,
and they had a
Bradford. If you ever heard of them,
they had it's called the 96 Rock Off, so it was a battle of the bands.
Okay,
and the Black Crowes won. Although I think I'm right about this, that at the time they were still called Mr. Crow's Garden.
That's correct.
And then after they were brought on, I think, was it the label that convinced them to change their name?
I think so. Once they got signed, they changed their name, and it was probably a good thing. So the rest is history. There's been a ton of guys in that band, in and out. My recollection of band members is that the count is at 22.
Really?
Right around there. It's just Chris and Rich Robinson. So I'd have to say yes for the Black Crowes to get in there. I mean, they're a solid rock band. Okay, so it's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You want a solid rock band in there. You want good songwriting, good melodies, good hooks. You got some good vocals. You got lots of guitars. You got Rich Robinson. You got a good low-end bass player, Steve Gorman, the original drummer for the Black Crowes, who is no longer in that band. He was... Well, I don't know if you ever read his book. Have you?
I haven't. No.
It's an interesting read. and it's about 5 years old. But now, in hindsight, as I look back and go, well, you don't know who to believe. Those are his interpretations and his stories with the Black Crowes and how he was treated. When they disbanded in 2013 or 14, right around there, one of the reasons why the Black Crowes disbanded was because Chris Robinson wanted control of the salaries. He wanted 100%. He wanted a specific amount of shares in the band, and even his brother Rich and drummer Steve Gorman were to be considered salaried employees, and that just didn't go over well, and that's why they broke up. I mean, I can go on and on about the soap opera of that band, but as far as the music, Steve Gorman does a morning show up in Minneapolis.
Really?
He's a radio guy. He was actually getting into radio before he hooked up with the Black Crowes. He was interested in broadcasting, and once he got his band got famous, he's like, well, I don't need to go to school anymore. So he's doing mornings at KQRS up in Minneapolis. He's been up there for about 3 years now. So
you can start to see in what I'm talking about that this man knows so much about music.
I met Steve Gorman a couple of times over the years, but we'll get back to the band's. Yes, I mean they're a great rock band from when I first heard them, when Shake Your Moneymaker, their debut came out, all the way up until I'm going to say again their peak airs, and when I still get into them today. I've seen them 37 times.
Holy cow!
I know that's probably the most times I've seen a band. So let's see, 1990 to about 2001 is where the peak, the albums, so to speak. You had Lions. By Your Side was a halfway decent album. They did a live album with Jimmy Page, of Led Zeppelin. They went and toured for maybe a couple of dates. There's some craziness going on with that tour. You go back to 1996 with Three Snakes, One Charm, Amorica, Southern Harmony, and Musical Companion. I think that's their best album. That's better than the first album. So,
yeah, I thought that they really hit it big after that first appearance they made on Letterman, and Letterman just went nuts over them. And suddenly, on that same station, 96 Rock, they're no longer playing the album cut; they're playing the recording from Late Night with David Letterman.
No kidding. Was that good?
And at the end of it, you can hear Letterman just yell out, "Yeah, how about them Crows?"
Oh.
So that was what I heard all the time down in Atlanta, was that recording from Letterman. So that helped them out, I think, a lot, at least in the part of the area that I was in. All right, jumping over now to getting out of what we would call traditional rock and roll, and this is going to be more pop music. Mariah Carey, who, I mean, she's a lock.
Gorgeous woman, but I'd have to say no.
But I think she's in. I don't see how she doesn't get in.
She'll get nominated for sure. But again, it goes back to the name of, is it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or is it the Music Hall of Fame? Mariah Carey was going to be, in this nomination for the Music Hall of Fame, so to speak. Hey, she's contributed. I mean, she's a fantastic artist. So, but I still say no to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But you're saying that she'll probably get inducted.
I don't see how they keep her out, and especially when you look at a lot of the artists that are in along that same genre. That that's what they do. There's boy bands in. So
yeah. Oh boy.
Here's somebody that surprised me, and if I read it right, had never been nominated before.
That blows my mind.
Is Chubby Checker.
Never knew that.
But how many hits did Chubby Checker have?
Well, the only one that I can think that comes to mind is "Come On, Baby."
Yeah.
Do that twist.
That's it. Yes. I mean, how many other?
That's it. That's the only thing that comes to my mind right now.
Also nominated, and here's somebody that should have been in probably a long time ago, is Joe Cocker.
Joe Cocker, yes. What a songwriter. Some of the arrangements, anything from that stripper song, da, 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 came out in the late 80s, and then you go back to the mid 70s with "You Are So Beautiful."
Well, and somebody had pulled
"Feeling All Right," the piano song, the piano parts on that song still give me goosebumps just thinking about it, man.
somebody had pulled and isolated the vocals on one of his songs, so you only heard him singing. It was something I saw posted online.
A little help from my friends, maybe.
He was an unbelievably good singer. And I think that he's incredibly underrated because he's so growly and raspy, and the whole John Belushi thing from Saturday Night Live and all of that. But he was tremendous.
I've always dug whatever he puts out there. God rest his soul. I mean, just the piano, just the arrangements in a lot of his songs. But I always paid attention to the piano in his songs, and that just kind of took me home because my sister plays piano, so maybe it's something like that. You know, I mean, if I'm listening to a really good song, I go straight to the piano. I mean, yeah, there's guitar parts in every song, but for me, my ear goes right to the piano. Hey, is there a good organ in there? Is a good Hammond B3? And Feeling All Right is really kind of hits home for me whenever I think of Joe Cocker. Absolutely. Or Get By with a Little Help from My Friends, So.
Billy Idol on the nomination list this year. He had a big career before he ever covered Moni Moni. He'd been around a long time.
Generation X.
Yeah.
Of course, his band, his long touring guitar player, Steve Stevens. How could you ignore Billy Idol and his band? I mean, wow. All you got to do is, listen to the album Rebel Yell. There's not a weak song on that album at all. And Whiplash Smile, too. Those both back-to-back albums from 84 and 86. They were pretty untouchable. And I think Steve Stevens doesn't get any credit. I think he's one of probably the top 20 guitar players in the world, but people will think I'm insane, but most guitar players will agree with me on that one. Some people don't even know who Steve Stevens is, so yes, for Billy Idol and his band. I got a lot of respect for his band. So.
There's here's somebody that I'm not nearly as familiar with, Joy Division.
Yeah, Joy Division, a band that let's pop up some info. I know they were I'm going to think the alternative alt rock. I'm not going to say that they were the pioneers of alt rock, but they were kind of around that era of the Sex Pistols, 1976-ish.
Yeah, they formed in 76.
Yeah, they weren't very most punk bands weren't very polished anyway. I mean, their message was pretty like anti this,
right,
and anti that. But I think Joy Division was more emotional, a little bit more raw, and almost unhinged, similar to the lead singer's life. Unfortunately, he ended his life at such a young age. He was 23, but Ian, is that his name? I'm just going by memory here, man.
Yeah, Ian Curtis.
There you go. And I apologize, but Ian Curtis. Now the post band after his death was the New Order. Am I thinking of that right? New World Order, or is it just New Order?
Yeah, New Order. Spinoff's New Order.
Yeah, spinoff. Okay. But going back to Joy Division, they absolutely need to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's because, again, I don't want to say that they're the pioneers of alt rock, but a lot of alternative bands were influenced heavily by Joy Division. Good band. Lyrics are pretty deep, a little intense. If you really sit down and listen to them, they're gonna get your emotions all riled up there. And when I was a kid, I remember that band briefly. And like a lot of folks, when they get into bands, I had heard about this band when Ian took his life. So I'm like, okay, I'm curious now. I want to find out a little bit more about this band. And I was only 16 when this happened. So I'm like, okay, my mind is still open to a lot of things. It's not as closed as it is now, but I had a chance to listen to that band and like them for all these years. So they got my respect. Yeah, give them a check into the Hall of Fame for sure.
All right, another artist that top 40 artist, but I think probably had a little more edge than Mariah Carey would be Cyndi Lauper, is up for nomination this year.
I always thought of her as kind of a goofy chick, funny. Don't think she really needs to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's more of a pop singer. True Colors is a great song.
Yeah.
Time After Time is a great pop song. Again, it goes back to the songwriting and the hooks and the melody. Girls Just Want to Have Fun, kind of a stupid song.
Well, do you remember her back, in the 80s WWF?
Yes.
And she was hanging out with Captain Lou Albano.
That's
And
right.
yeah, they were running around, and he had rubber bands.
Yeah, shoot rubber bands.
Yeah, they were like glued to his face or something like that. But yeah, she was hanging out with them. So we talked.
I'm not going to object if she does get inducted, but I'm like, I don't think anyone cares, man. I don't. So
The true rock guy right here.
yeah.
Okay, we talked about the
will I ever work at a country station? No. The answer is no. I respect that format. Hey, I did country for a long time. I just don't want to do it anymore. So
that's fair. That's fair. We talked about the band Mania earlier. They're a Latin band and sound really cool. I know very little about them, but they do sound good. Oasis is up for. They're nominated this year, so they're going to be up receiving votes.
Saw them warm up for the Black Crowes in 2001 in Denver. It snowed outside Fiddler's Green Amphitheater. There it was in May of 2001, and it snowed.
That doesn't surprise me in Denver.
So, both bands still played. It was unbelievable. Once the venue cleared out, there was probably a couple hundred people out there.
How about
Oasis? Yes, I would say yes for the Gallagher brothers.
How about Outkast?
No. They're pop. He's pop. It's not rock and roll, man. Again, you got to bring in maybe change the name of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But it wouldn't surprise me if that gentleman got in there. I mean, the songs I've listened to them. They're catchy. Again, they got hooks. They make you want to go, all right, I like this guy, but he ain't rock and roll, man. That's where I kind of draw the line. Do I sound like jaded or something? I don't know.
Yeah, you got that get off my lawn vibe going on right now, but
well, they could. I'd have to say no, man.
All right.
That's just not going to happen.
Fish is nominated this year?
I'd have to say no on that, too.
Really?
Now, they're a great band, don't get me wrong. But they're not Widespread Panic. They're not the Grateful Dead. Fish, to me, is just this kind of a boring band. That's more boring than the Grateful Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat interesting. Now, if there was a band like Widespread Panic, of course, the Grateful Dead, they're in the Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure they are. I can't remember. I'm almost certain that they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, I'm pulling up the list of everybody that's in right now to see if I can't
Fish
learn a little bit.
Fish reminds me, well, a lot of the Grateful Dead, their structure, some of their songs. I mean, they're just all over the place. There's to me, what I'm hearing is just a lot of jams. It's kind of like the Black Crowes when they were in their jam phase, or the Allman Brothers Band, when they get into the jam phase. That's for some people. I like jam bands. I love Little Feat, another band that should be in the Hall of Fame. But when you get into the area of, jam band based material, for some folks, they're not getting it. It could be a 20-minute version or a 20-minute song of something. And it's just, who wants to hear a 20-minute drum solo or a 20-minute, guitar solo? And,
well, here's
I'm just not into those kind of bands, man.
According to rockhall.com, Grateful Dead is not in the Hall of Fame.
Well, that sucks. Maybe they
But here's the thing, though, and you take a look at,
they're the fathers of, hey, let's smoke a lot of weed and listen to a great band.
George Michael went in a couple of years ago. I'm looking at some of these that are maybe
Fleetwood Mac, interesting.
And we talked about Chubby Checker. Fats Domino went in back in '86.
Well, that Chubby Checker should be going in there pretty soon,
right? I'm looking for some of the other ones that maybe are more on the pop side. Dr. John, that might.
When was that? That's recent.
2011.
Okay.
2011 is when Dr. John went in.
Not
so
recent. Close enough.
There's
Deep Purple finally, huh?
Yeah, Darlene Love. Again, I would put, same older generation, but when you look at, if Mariah Carey doesn't belong, then you have to throw Darlene Love out because it's the same kind of music, I think. And I don't know that you can do that. So
makes you wonder.
Yeah. Okay,
Fish, Fish is all right. Again, I'm not feeling their vibe. Widespread Panic is a different band. I mean, those guys, At least in those songs, I'm hearing hooks, I'm hearing songwriting, I'm hearing structure and where the song goes from beginning to the end. I'm not hearing it if I'm listening to the Grateful Dead or Fish. It's like a radio host who just opens up his mouth and everything comes out at once. Kind of like Tom Becker.
Oh man!
Oh, I love Tom. Tom and I always talk.
Oh, sorry, Tom. It wasn't me. I
man.
didn't say it.
It's all good.
He's got his own podcast now.
Yeah,
So
that's swell. You know,
Soundgarden, they're going in. That's
Well,
that's a done deal.
Okay, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Soundgarden. Come on, man.
It's just strange though that
I don't need to elaborate any more than that.
we've gotten to the age now where bands that started after we actually understood music a little bit that were formed then, and Soundgarden's one of them.
Yeah,
you know, and it just I have a hard time admitting I'm the age I am.
Bad Motor Finger is probably one of their greatest albums. Super Unknown, which is even better. And their most recent one before Chris took his life, 2012 or 13. When they reunited, that was a really, really decent album. So I always, I got a lot of respect for Soundgarden. I mean, they're a rock band, Spoon Man. When you hear it, come on, man. You know, when you hear anything by Soundgarden, I mean, the first 5 seconds of the song, you're going to know who they are. And their drummer, Matt Cameron, is great, who is now playing with Pearl Jam. And I think he's been with Pearl Jam for about 20 years right now.
Wow.
So yeah, he was juggling both bands for a long time there. So he's one of my favorite drummers too.
And
solid.
The final nominee this year, and I saw it online on social media that you were putting the list together.
Yeah.
This is a band that kind of surprised me that you said probably not, and it's the White Stripes.
It's simply because I'm not going to say that I'm not into them. I do listen to them. The only song that I know is Damnation, whatever that song is. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you give us more than that? You know, Meg White. Okay. She's supposed to be this, drummer that's really looked at by a lot of other musicians. I don't know the artist. I get their artist vibe and all that, but I don't understand their music. So I guess I'm a get off my lawn type of a guy. Nah, man. I'm just not into them. Maybe give them a couple more years to be considered. But hey, what do I know, man?
Well,
if I hear it, I just, hey, whatever. You guys are going to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for that?
I'm going to drop a question on you here. That I didn't ask you about before.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back because one of the things about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony is when you start to see some performances and you start to see bands that they're blending together and that kind of thing. Is there anything that jumps out at you of something that you've seen over the years that just really stood out, that this is something that,
like the wow factor?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I had a wow factor moment last night, believe it or not. I was watching, what is that, SNL 50th anniversary.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I know I can go online and watch it. I haven't watched it yet.
I went on to social media and checked out a couple of videos, and I watched Eddie Vedder, and he was with a band. I couldn't tell you who the band was. A Questlove was behind the drum kit, and they were doing a Tom Petty cover, The Waiting is the Hardest Part.
Oh, yeah, that's a great tune.
Off the Hard Promises album.
Yep.
So I was pretty moved with watching that performance. You know, Eddie Vedder's, I'd have to say Pearl Jam, maybe Guns N' Roses. Those, in my head, those are probably the last 2 bands that really had that wow factor. That really, when you heard them on the radio, especially like Guns N' Roses, from the Appetite for Destruction album, listening to like Night Train and It's So Easy. When I first heard those songs, I was like 22 or 23. And I'm like, these guys, man, these guys are going to go somewhere. And the same thing goes for like Pearl Jam, their 10 album. Nobody comes close to that, you know. I don't even think Pearl Jam has come close to recreating that wow factor that they had back in 1991 with the release of their debut album 10. So I don't know if it's a crime for me to say there's no wow factor in rock and roll, but it's very limited. Nothing has really stood out.
Well, there's a couple for me that, as far as performances at the induction ceremony,
Yeah.
one has been, it's all over. You've seen it online before.
Mhm.
It was, I think it was '04 when they inducted George Harrison, and Petty was singing, and Jeff Lynne was singing, and then Prince comes out and does the guitar solo.
Probably 2002, I'm going to think, because I was still living in Colorado. I remember watching that.
And that watching Prince do the guitar solo on While My Guitar Gently Weeps could be the coolest guitar solo I've ever seen. I'm not saying it's the most skillfully done, but when you watch him, it's like you cannot hit a higher level of cool than what Prince did.
No, he just
doing that.
He just threw everyone off that stage and just blew everyone off and said, "Well, you know what? This is what I'm going to do."
Yeah.
Probably didn't mean to do that, but that's the vibe that I got when I was watching. I'm like, wow, this guy's incredible. And we all know that Prince was not only a great singer-songwriter, but an amazing guitar player, man.
The other one
served the song.
The other one that got me was going back to 2017 when Yes was inducted, and the performance that Yes put on.
Did you dig that?
Oh man, I thought that was
a chance to. Were they doing it with Trevor Rabin's lineup? Like from 90125, in addition to maybe Steve Howe. They bring the past and present members together.
I believe that's what it was, but you're starting to climb past my pay grade here. You're way over my head with some of this stuff.
I was watching a Yes video on TikTok the other day. Someone threw an old Yes video on there. It was a live version of Hold On from the 90125 album, and you're thinking, okay, it's 1983, 1984. And I couldn't get past the outfits that they were all wearing. It was all about, and normally I'm like, I want to listen, I want to focus on the music. But John Anderson had this, strange looking outfit on, and even Alan White, they all look like, I don't know. Well, they look like someone from 1983, I suppose. But yeah, it was really cool to see. And they were so young too. It was 42 years ago. So,
well, the announcement of who's actually getting in is coming up in April. Oh, yeah. We do want to let you know that there is a local author here right in town. Her name is Carol Horner. She was just on the show recently, and she's written a book called Spiral of Accountability. And this takes the complex dynamic of human self-talk and human interactions and breaks it down into a visual representation. She has an actual spiral. That's why it's called Spiral of Accountability. And you can, the readers can identify, name, and understand what's going on with them and the people around them. And then that helps you put a pathway together towards improving reactions. So you can pick up your copy at spiralofaccountability.com. And while you're there, learn more about how Carol has helped organizations like yours be in sync by defining accountability in a new way. And the AIM Institute, their mission is to grow a strong and diverse tech community through education, career development, and outreach. And one way they do that is through SWIFT. That is called the Southwest Iowa Free Technical Training. SWIFT provides accelerated training for Iowans interested in a career in technology. It's all funded from the Charles E. Lakin Foundation. That means when you sign up, no cost. It's completely free. Their next class is coming up this spring. Visit aiminstitute.org to learn more, and we're going to have the new CEO from the AIM Institute on next week on the show, so we are really looking forward to that. Well, Mr. Dan Duffy, and I appreciate you making the trip over here and running down this list of they're not inducted yet. These are just nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But
sure, man. Anytime. It's always nice to hook up with an old radio buddy, just talking shop. And it just seems like every week I'm either chatting with someone online through social media or via text or, on the phone, somebody I worked with in radio. So I still keep in touch, with a handful of folks. So it's nice to hear from all my colleagues, so to speak.
Yeah,
and our colleagues, they're friends, So.
Well, and I'm anytime that somebody from the radio industry is getting into podcasting, I want to be there to support it. I know several, and we're just going to keep on. Once you're actually released, we'll make sure everybody on this program knows about it. Mm-hmm. And that's Two Omaha Fools. That's correct. That's what it's called. Mm-hmm. And we will let you know when that is available. That's just going to be an audio podcast, right? You're not there with a camera yet.
Pretty much audio, and we'll kind of take it from there. We're just taking baby steps right now. So we're actually, my buddy and I, Dave, are going to go to see Howard Jones this coming Wednesday night at Steelhouse, along with ABC.
Wow.
So, yeah. Well, he invited me, so I'm like, I'm really not into those bands, but I'll go anyway. So there's a friend.
That's going to wrap things up on this Monday morning. We hope your week has launched well. My name's Todd Studer. Thanks to Dan Duffy for being a part of us with the show today. And we'll be back with another episode again tomorrow morning.